Welcome to another Explainer. Today, we are going to peel back the layers of a genuinely startling technical discovery about the browser you are, well, probably using right now. We're looking at a fascinating and honestly highly concerning investigative report by privacy researcher Alexander Hanff.
So let's dive right into this big question. Did your browser just secretly install a massive 4 GB AI model on your local machine? According to this recent investigative report, Google Chrome might be doing exactly that. And the kicker? They're doing it without asking you, without notifying you, and without giving you any clear way out.
Here's our agenda for today. 1. The secret 4 GB download. 2. Uncovering the hidden trail. 3. The AI mode illusion. 4. The privacy and legal case. 5. The massive climate cost. And 6. What needs to change. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The secret 4 GB download. A hidden payload. Let's look at what exactly is landing on your hard drive.
Buried deep within the user profile directory, researchers found a massive 4 GB file. It's called weight.bin, and it just sits there inside of a very obscurely named folder called opt guide on device model. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is this file? Well, it actually contains the weights for Gemini Nano, which is Google's on-device large language model. This is basically the engine meant to power AI-assisted browser functions, like writing assistance or scam detection.
And this really brilliantly illustrates the core problem the report highlights. Chrome just doesn't ask permission to download this. There's literally no consent prompt, no simple checkbox in your settings, nothing. It forces a bundle across vendor trust boundaries, and it uses confusing internal jargon to hide what the file actually is. But honestly, the most frustrating part? If you somehow manage to track this file down and manually delete it to free up some much-needed space, Chrome actually treats that deletion as an error and stubbornly re-downloads the entire massive file the very next time you open the browser.
Section 2. Uncovering the hidden trail. A forensic audit. You might be wondering how the author actually proved this happens automatically, so let's look at the evidence.
To test this, the researchers set up a completely fresh macOS profile that received absolutely zero human input. No keyboard strokes, no mouse clicks. The system was just left entirely idle. Yet, the system logs recorded a very specific sequence occurring seamlessly in the background over a 14-minute and 28-second window. Chrome spontaneously created the directory, spawned 3 separate subprocesses to unpack the massive data payload, and then move the AI weights into their final location. All of this happened while the user did absolutely nothing.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that this isn't just some anecdote or a glitch. The author verified this hard proof across 4 totally separate system and application logs: the macOS kernel logs, Chrome's own per-profile state data, its runtime feature flags, and Google's component updater logs. All 4 independently agreed that the browser initiated the download completely on its own. It is an airtight forensic chain.
Section 3. The AI mode illusion. Cloud versus local. This brings us to a really fascinating irony about how this feature is actually presented to the user. There is a stark contrast in how this whole system operates. When you use Chrome, you might see a prominent AI mode pill pop up right in the address bar. Now, a reasonable user would probably assume this visible feature uses that massive 4 GB local model sitting on their disk, right? Well, actually, it doesn't. The visible AI feature sends all your queries over the network to the cloud. Meanwhile, that massive file secretly trespassing on your hard drive? It sits completely idle. It's only utilized if you happen to dig into obscure right-click context menus that, let's be honest, most users are never going to touch. The author argues this arrangement essentially functions as a sleight of hand. It engages in deceptive design patterns by misleading users about where the actual processing occurs, completely skipping the chance to let people choose between cloud and local AI, and severely hindering removal. Because the visible cloud AI and the hidden local AI are decoupled in the settings menu, it makes it impossibly difficult for a regular user to manage or disable this massive download.
Section 4. The privacy and legal case. Breaking the law? Let's see how this builds into a very serious issue, particularly in regions with strict data protection laws.
We start with Europe's e-privacy directive. This law strictly prohibits storing information on a user's terminal equipment without explicit, freely given, unambiguous consent unless it's strictly necessary for a service the user actually requested. Since Chrome is perfectly functional without this 4 GB AI file, forcing it onto your device without permission appears to the researcher to be a direct breach of this European directive. Then, of course, we have the GDPR, which requires data processing to be transparent and to implement data minimization by default.
The author points out that pre-staging a massive AI model, just in case you might use some obscure feature in the future, is literally the architectural opposite of data minimization. It further compounds the legal concerns around this silent rollout.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The author emphasizes that just because a technology is labeled with the buzzy term AI, it doesn't somehow get a free pass from basic privacy laws. Treating someone's personal, privately owned device as a corporate deployment service fundamentally undermines the foundational consent required for responsible software distribution.
Section 5. The massive climate cost. Global impact. Now, we peel back the final layer of the onion here. What exactly happens when you multiply an unauthorized 4 GB download by billions of users worldwide?
Let's look at this number, 0.06 kilograms of CO2 equivalent. That is the baseline carbon footprint calculated from bandwidth energy for pushing this file exactly one time to just one single device. Now, on its own, that seems kind of tiny, right? But wait until we see what happens when we scale it up.
Chrome has roughly 3.5 billion users globally. If we estimate a rollout to just 1 billion compatible devices, the total energy delivery hits 240 gigawatt-hours. To put that into perspective, that is the annual electricity consumption of 72,000 households. It generates 60,000 tons of CO2 emissions, which is roughly equivalent to putting 13,000 extra cars on the road for an entire year. And remember, all of this massive environmental impact is generated to distribute a file that users didn't ask for and mostly won't even use.
And keep in mind that delivery energy isn't just paid by Google's massive server farms, it is heavily paid by the user's own equipment and local access networks. For people on metered or mobile-only internet connections, particularly in developing regions, this forced 4 GB background download can instantly vaporize their monthly data limits, totally without their knowledge.
Section 6. What needs to change? Fixing the problem. So, how do we actually fix this digital trespassing? The author provides a very clear roadmap.
The report lays out these straightforward demands. First, Google must ask for consent before downloading. They should pull the file only if the user explicitly activates the relevant AI feature, rather than just pushing it preemptively. They need to clearly surface these massive files in the settings menu, document what they are in plain language, completely respect a user's choice if they delete the file, and finally, they absolutely must disclose the massive carbon impact of these rollouts in their corporate sustainability reports.
Furthermore, for the hundreds of millions of users who have likely already silently received this file, the author insists there needs to be a clear, retroactive notification. When they open their browser, they should be told exactly what happened and be offered a simple one-click option to revoke consent and uninstall the model, reclaiming their hard drive space.
I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought from the author, which really asks the ultimate question here. Do the rules of digital consent, basic privacy, and environmental responsibility apply to everyone? Or does operating at a massive, billion-user scale somehow provide a shield from the consequences? It's a fantastic question and one we should all be asking the next time we hear our computer fans spin up for absolutely no apparent reason. Thank you for joining this explainer, and definitely keep a close eye on your hard drives.